just eventually gets us there.
Alrighty.
So are we ready?
Hit it.
Okay. And it's going to want me to sign in or do something crazy. Share on my page. I've learned that trick. Go. There we are. So while that is preparing, I will admit our other Zoom user. We'll see who is joining us. Okay. So we'll give that just a moment. And while our Zoom user is joining us, I will say welcome to everyone here on the Zoom with me or catching us live on Facebook. My apologies, Facebook viewers. I still have not figured out how to respond to comments dropped in the messaging there during the broadcast without crashing the whole process. So feel free to message or hope that by next month I get some new Facebook skills. But welcome, we're glad you joined us. With us today is my co-host Valerie McGrew. She is my mentor and the former library director for the Dowling Library and the one who kind of helped put today's program together. We're also joined by author, and I'm still gonna get this wrong, Mael Brigde, who we spoke with earlier, actually I think it's almost a year ago now, when her book Brigit Devotional was being released, and we had her on with Anne Carew at one of the Irish Center's cultural Zooms. And so we got to talk to you about Saint Goddess Brigit and her book, which I'm really excited about. How is it going? Well,
yeah, it is. And I also remember that Sister Teresa Cullen was with us too, which was wonderful.
Yes, that was, she was brilliant. So she's a member of the Brigidine order, and if I recall correctly, she was based in Texas. So, you know,
yeah, or Georgia,
yeah. But you know, like today, it's a multi-regional group on Zoom.
You know, once a year, Mael, the Irish Marvels Past and Present, that's a history group that used to meet at the center. Now we're on Zoom. We do a Bridget's Cross Day, and we make Bridget's crosses. And this year we're doing something slightly different. We're going to reach out to some Native American in Northern California who are going to talk to us about the tule, which is what we've been using to make Bridget's crosses. So I hope you can join us. Maybe Jennifer could send you a link, or
yeah, I'll make sure to
it's
send
really
that out.
it's a little bit random, but I think it's really interesting, you know.
It's got a nice link, and you know, originally we had planned to, you know, for this to be the first live Marvels meeting in 2 years, basically, and make crosses all together at the same table. Last year we did it virtually, everybody from their own table, which got entertaining.
I think we might try something like that this year too, but not quite as organized. Yeah.
So, but this year we had hoped to be in person again, and with that not being likely, our Marvels lead and one of the other members came up with this idea, and she knew she had a contact for somebody who did presentations like that. So we're just waiting on the final details, but that will be, so we can just kind of jump ahead in our programming. Irish Marvels will meet on February 12th, the second Saturday of the month at 2:30 Pacific time.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
And I think I even have some days free in February, unlike January.
All right.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm especially glad you could join us today then.
Yeah.
And, you know, Mael, I think the group would be interested in hearing a little bit about your book too. I mean, obviously the focus is on the tule, but you know, they're all interested in Bridget. So this would be really nice.
It would be
great.
Yeah,
we're not going to tell them though. We'll just let you be a surprise if you can make it. How's that?
Yeah. Someday we may get you back for a full session, but this one just a, you know, short who you are kind of thing. Yeah.
That's great.
Okay. So there we go. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Valerie, drum roll please, to talk about our exciting, it's been over a year in the works announcement.
Well, we're very excited to announce that we're going to be going online shortly. We're waiting for the final word from our board of directors, but that's in the offing. We're going to go online selling our duplicate books. As many of you might know, that our community is really generous. The majority of our books are donated by the community in San Francisco. Anyone from someone who had a few books in her garage to professors at the various universities in the neighbor area. And we always explain to people that if we already have the book, we'll sell it. And we've had the good fortune to receive some absolutely marvelous books that are actually duplicates. And so we've been talking for a long time about going online with this. And we have established an account with biblio.com. And as soon as we get the final word, like I said, we will be going live with it. Hopefully February 1st, but at least sometimes in February, it'll be available, and you just go online, biblio.com. Now, I know Jennifer has selected some, I mean, we have, I don't know how many books, hundreds of them that we're going to be putting online. And once we sell some of them, we're also going to put on the list. These books tend to be vintage books or books that are more valuable that your average person who comes into the library does not buy. Most people buy the books right off the cart, and they're a few dollars, or anywhere from a couple of dollars to $10. Is that about right, Jennifer?
Up to 20, because we do
20,
have some new releases and items.
Okay.
But
and so we will
book
be
cart-
putting those online eventually, but right now we're focusing on the older books, the vintage books, and some of them are just beautiful to look at, even if you never read them, frankly. There's one that, I mean, as much as I love to read books, you know, I also just like having them because they're wonderful. So Jennifer has one that I'm particularly interested in. It's very popular. It's not a vintage book, but it was written by our founder, Patrick J. Dowling. And I think she's going to, and this is a great resource if you're doing research on Irish California. It's an amazing, and you know, some people have said that it's dated, but I think it's absolutely fabulous. And so you're going to be offering this, Jennifer?
We are, and the advantage to this title is that because Mr. Dowling published it prior to his death in the late 90s, his first book was self-published. This one, a publisher, based on the success of the first book, a publisher picked up. And so we're fortunate to have several copies available. And so this one appears regularly. You know, we always try to keep a couple copies on our green book cart. It sells for $20. And now that we're going to be looking at online, I need to include plus tax and shipping, but it's a fantastic resource about some of the early Irish and Irish Americans who came to California and really made it their own and shaped California, you know, with their contributions. And of course, I grabbed the copy the copy with all the notes and all the post-its is actually currently on display in the St. Francis room at our Biscuits and Books, or not Biscuits and Books, that's what we're doing now, at Keepers of the Steps, our Irish dance exhibition that is happening live at the Irish Center. But I'll just give a quick, you know, here is one example of the index.
Well, you know, it was astonishing to me. I just looked at one page and they listed in the 60s all the people that were Irish that were officials in San Francisco. It's practically the whole city government were Irish. The impact of the Irish in California is amazing. And the odd thing is, you know, I spend a lot of time in Arizona now. And when I talk about this, people said, "Oh, are there Irish people in San Francisco?" And I thought, oh, duh. And this will be of interest to a lot of people from all over, who don't know about the Irish, the story of the Irish in San Francisco.
Well, and as an example, in the table of contents, we have one chapter is devoted to the Irish pioneers in San Diego, Fresno's Celtic land barons,
Oh, that's
Kearney,
interesting.
Kearney and Hughes. Well, Kearney Street's a major street here in the city.
Right.
Too. The Sacramento Irish, Eleanor Martin, the Irish Tsarina. And so there's a bunch of these, and it does go throughout California. There's Irish California women of distinction. So anybody that wants to, really drill down on their women's history coming up next month, there's a chapter for you in here. So
and I understand that you have a chapter about the Murphys too. The first, is it this book or his other book?
There's definitely a chapter about the Murphys of San Jose in the other book.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Which the first book, the other book is California Irish, the name of it, and it's much harder to come by because it was self-published, so there aren't nearly as many copies out there. I have threatened all kinds of mayhem should the library's copy disappear. That one is definitely a come and read it on site.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But in a quick glance, there we go. Well, no, this is Murphy's. I think this refers to Murphy's, the town, which does also have a connection to Murphy's, the family. There will be more on the family, though, in a presentation that we are working on in partnership with the San Jose Public Library that will present on Zoom at the beginning of next month, March 3rd in the evening, and talking about the Irish in California. And so, this book, the other book, and other resources will be presented then. So there is that book. And then Valerie, just because I almost got his name wrong yesterday when we were plotting.
Mr. Boyle O'Reilly.
Yes. We have this amazing book. Yes, you did, because we double checked ourselves before we went live. So Mr. John Boyle O'Reilly, His Life and Poems and Speeches. This is written by James Jeffrey Roche and was published in New York by the Mersham Press in 1891. So, and that's part of the fun of this. The community, this from the get-go, when Pat Dowling founded the library in the early 70s, and he traveled all over Ireland and the US soliciting material for the initial collection. Everyone was so generous, and we have incredible materials from the 19th, 20th, and now 21st century in our holdings. And the fact that some of these are genuinely duplicates, and yes, we do check to make sure, is amazing. So,
and this was an uncommonly popular book among our community.
So here
he is.
The title page. There he is, and under this lovely tissue that I will not tear. Of all the days to get Band-Aids in awkward spots. So these are his, with an introduction by His Eminence James Cardinal Gibbons, the Archbishop of Baltimore. And the Baltimore has a very active Irish community still. And in fact, I follow their Irish Railroad Workers Museum.
I think Maryland was the first state to wasn't it the first state to be a Catholic, or a colony, to be a Catholic colony in the United States?
I think so.
Yeah.
But nobody gets to quote me on that. Because I can neither confirm nor deny without typing it into a search engine at this moment. But so chapter 1, and I love 19th century books because you get a little synopsis with each chapter. It's not just chapter 1, page this. You get a little synopsis of what's in the chapter. So if you're going to skip around, this is ideal. So birthplace, childhood and early apprenticeship, prison life in Australia is chapter 4. Narrow escape from a bad whale is chapter 5.
Oh, I would like that. That looks good.
So that there's a lot in here. Boyle's log, no memory for dates, public addresses, his editorials on the cruise ship Catalpa.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot going on in this lovely book. Yeah, he either was or was writing on it, because I haven't read this yet.
Okay.
Somebody wants to buy it out from under me, that's fine.
Yeah.
And so this one is 30 plus tax and shipping.
Mm-hmm.
Or come on down, because the book cart will actually be in the Keepers of the Steps exhibition on Saturday.
I so enjoyed it. I was so happy I was in California for that. The opening night
too. Yeah,
it's a fabulous exhibit.
It really is. It's brilliant. Anne's brainchild, and the way it came together is just phenomenal. So if anybody does have a chance to get to see it, it's running started tonight, Thursdays and Fridays, this week and next, from 6 to 9 o'clock here at the Irish Center, or Saturday and Sunday, I believe, from 1 to 5. And it is a ticketed event. The tickets are available on Eventbrite. You do need to come fully dressed with your mask and your proof of vaccination for indoors, but it's worth it. And, of course, the Niners have made it for yet another week. So following the exhibition, there's the watch party at Wawona Gates. So always something going on at the center. In keeping with our 19th century theme here, this lovely little book is called New Ireland.
No, I'm not familiar with this. Tell me something about it. Why do I?
Glorious artwork on the cover.
Fabulous, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's like I said before, that's one of the things I love about the older books. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was published in New York by J.J. Little and Company Printers. The copyright is 1877 by Peter F. Collier. And his prefatory remarks open: within considerably less than half a century, changes, social and political, accomplishing a veritable revolution, have taken place in Ireland. In the following pages, I have undertaken not so much to picture them in all their phases or to write a formal history of the period, as to supply, chiefly from personal observation, a series of sketches or narratives which may perhaps assist the reader and more correct appreciation of visible results. So with this being published in 1877, we're just 30 years away from the famine and the massive emigration that sparked. And, less than 100 years from the 1798 uprising, and only, please math, don't fail me now, 50 years away from the rising and the founding of the Republic. So a lot going on here. And and here we have the contents. I don't know, is my camera?
No, can't really see it. Sorry,
okay.
Jennifer.
That's okay. It's also hand set in what is probably easily 8-point type. So the note to the New York edition, which this is has that indispensable something, especially prepared for it and not to be found in any other, namely a carefully prepared and complete table of contents. Now I want to see one of the other editions. I mean, a complete table.
You better check the other one before we.
I would like to think all books would be published with a complete table of contents, but
well, we hope so.
You never know. But these contents include the Black 47, Young Ireland, the Fenian movement, the Richmond escape, the scaffold in the cell, the Lenda Escartajo.
Okay.
Okay.
I buy
the
that.
the schoolmaster abroad. So,
It would be really interesting to get the perspective of someone who was alive then, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we look back on things and have one perspective, but
well, that's why I like books like this,
Yeah.
because it's as close, it's primary source material. This is what they were thinking. This is how they saw it. This is how they analyzed it. So, I mean, I suppose in a way it's not primary source material because he's still right, but it's secondary, but it's close, as opposed to something that, might be published now, while
Right.
brilliantly researched, is still going to be potentially, filtered through the lens of our mores today,
Right.
versus how they were experienced then. So yeah,
Mhm.
lots
Yeah,
of
that looks
fun.
good. Yeah, I may keep that for myself. How much is it?
I just realized I hadn't said. So it's 25 plus tax and shipping.
Oh, I could afford that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
You can
we'll
also
see.
you can also come pick it up.
Yeah, I'll save on the shipping. Yeah, right.
Mail, speak up fast, because if Anne joins us, the
Oh,
lot
she'll be
is
buying
gone.
them all. And we won't.
She
Well,
was
that's
laughing
okay,
about
too. I don't have
having
any-
had this idea, because she's one of our prime book cart supporters,
Right.
but we don't tell Ed that. So, and this one is also good for Arm Day. This is our, I believe, our last 19th century title for the day, and the life of Daniel O'Connor, and just
Oh, that's so beautiful. The cover.
it's
Oh my God.
glorious. And I'm glad I'm sitting where I am with the lights, so that you can really see the embossing details
Yes.
on the book itself. That's the other grand thing about books from this era. They don't print them like they used to.
No. What's the date of publication on that one?
This one, and this is another New York edition. A lot of our books are published in Ireland. The Mercer Press is a common site, but this one is also New York. It's D&J Sadler and Company on Barclay Street. In Montreal, they are at 275 Notre Dame, excuse me.
Okay.
I did take French once upon a time. Really, I did. And this one, oh, I love it when they do this. Entered according to the Act of Congress in the year 1872 by D&J Sadler and Company in the office of the Librarian of Congress at Washington, D.C.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. So
that is really cool.
Yeah, that's just fun.
Yeah.
And this one, yes, is written by a woman. So there.
All right.
This is written by Sister M.F. Cusack, author of Illustrated History of Ireland, The Life of St. Patrick, Hornhurst Rectory, Daily Steps to Heaven, and The New Life of Father Matthew.
What was her name again, Jennifer?
Her name
It's Cusack, and that's so familiar.
Cusack. Well, I know there's a contemporary actor and, other people.
Yeah, but I don't know contemporary actor.
What is her first name?
Well, I'm checking the next page, because the front of the title page just gives it as Sister M.F. Cusack.
Okay. I'm Googling it as we
Okay,
speak.
because who's willing to go odds or evens with me on whether it's Mary or Margaret?
Mary Frances.
And I say that lovingly, because we have these conversations in the Irish Genealogy Club every month about names.
Oh, my internet doesn't want to work today. Sorry.
Okay. So we'll have to, but this one is inscribed, again, beautiful stuff. To the Catholic priests and to the Catholic people of America, this life of the most illustrious Irishman of ancient or modern times is dedicated with deep reverence for the clergy who, following their divine master, have forsaken all temporal pleasures and interests for the sake of their people, with tender affection for the people who, while faithful to the land of their nativity or their parents, are not less mindful of the faith for which their fathers suffered and bled in old Ireland. So that's the dedication, and the preface is beautiful. And there's a name for this initial capital style. Mael, maybe you know this.
I don't know the name, but it is Mary Frances Cusack.
It is, huh?
Okay.
Okay. Did you find some information about her?
I
Oh,
found
Mary
a
Frances. Okay.
hymnary,
Say, what was that?
a hymnary. Oh, at hymnary.org, Mary Anna Cusack was born 6 May 1829 in a house at the corner of Mercer Street and York Street, now known as Cusack Corner, Dublin, Ireland.
Mm.
Also known as Sister Mary Frances Cusack and Mother Margaret. So you got
Hey.
all of them. She was an Irish Anglican nun and then a Roman Catholic nun.
Interesting. Interesting.
Mhm.
Right.
The other thing I appreciate about these vintage books is, I mean, you get a sense of the scale of the type. Sorry, there's also a lot of light here, but the printers were also mindful of margins and negative space. So it makes this tiny print much easier to read than some
Mhm.
contemporary editions that run top to bottom, edge to edge, and sometimes, you know, beginnings of words and lines get lost in the binding.
That's interesting, Jennifer. I hadn't thought about that. That really makes a difference, doesn't it?
It does. It from a
Yeah.
readability standpoint, you know, I'm
Mhm.
fortunate that I don't need assistance yet, really reading up close. But it's coming, and so I'm paying more attention than I used to.
Well, I do, because I always had problems seeing ever since I was 10
Yeah.
or something, you know.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it when a book is more readable. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anything across the room is this lovely pastel
You forget
blur,
about
but yeah, it's like, oh yeah, that's over there. That's nice. So I have to be fully corrected when, you know, when driving and being out and about.
Right.
But in close quarters, I can still function unaided. So now, any other observations, comments about the books we've?
Was that all 5 of them that we were?
No, I still have more, but you know,
Uh-huh.
I suspect I'm going to sneak peek here. I think we are now entering the 20th century for bindings, and I want to be mindful of the time. So,
Well, I know I have to run off in 10 minutes, but
Okay.
however, you two can go on. You have another, Mael knows quite a bit about books too, so I think she,
and so in that
you know,
case,
Mael, mainly I just love reading books, and I don't know if I know much about them, but I worked at the library so long.
yeah,
What do you have
we're
there, Jennifer?
lucky.
What's next?
What I have here is, you know, sorry, easily distracted by the printed page.
Right.
This is With the Dowling Brigade by Charles Dalton.
Okay.
And yes, and the date inside is 1917 to 1921. So
Mhm.
yeah, very topical with what's going on at the moment.
Who do we have there?
The author at the
No,
left.
the fellows in the picture.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the author at the left,
Uh-huh.
and 2 of his comrades, Tom Kehoe in the center and Ben Byrne.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. And
We have some fabulous books about the Rising and the War of Independence. Those little pamphlets that we have too. I like the Cork Brigade, and they're wonderful.
yeah, the Dublin and Limerick, and what is it? Kerry's fighting, something. Yeah,
Fighting. Yeah, and the artwork on those are just amazing.
It's great, but those are part of the regular collection. So for now,
Yeah, so
until we get them digitized, you have to come to us to read them.
That's right.
This one was published in 1929
Mhm.
in London by Peter Davies, and I'm always kind of impressed when I see titles like this that are actually published in England, because given what all went on in 1917 to 1921, the fact that English publishers are picking these up. These books up is impressive. And this one was actually printed in Great Britain at the Chiswick Press. And so again, primary source material here. This gentleman and his mates were in the brigade. He's writing about his experience. He's publishing it within 10 years. So you're getting that account from people whose mindset, whose experience is reflective of the era that they lived and not filtered through subsequent generations. And this one is 250. So it is a rarer, it is a rarer edition. Harder to find, probably not, since it was printed in London, maybe not as many of them made it out.
That reminds me of something I should have mentioned. I think all of the prices on our books are very reasonable. I think people will find that in other venues they would pay more. We try to price it at an amount that people will be able to buy, reasonably buy, because we kind of do have the philosophy, we want to find people for all these books, or books for people, we want to find a home for them. We don't want them just to sit there. So we do try to reasonably price them.
That we do. And we have Tom Barry. No, okay. I thought for a minute we had from the same group, but this book is Guerrilla Days in Ireland, and this is a first-hand account of the Black and Tan War, 1919 to 1921, written, talk about primary source material, by Commandant General Tom Barry.
Wow.
Published, this a little bit later. So he's writing his, I don't know when he wrote this, but this edition was published by the Devon Adair Company in New York in 1956. So, of course. The author's note: there is something to be said for waiting a quarter of a century before writing a factual account of what I know of the most stirring page in Ireland's long and checkered story. The lapse of this period of time allows one to write of men and matters as they really were from 1919 to the truce with Britain in July 1921, without being influenced by the tragic civil war which followed. At the same time, those guerrilla days are sufficiently near for any reader who seeks confirmation to interview witnesses and examine documents and newspaper issues of the days which are still available. There are a couple more paragraphs, and our Commander Barry has signed this from Cork, Ireland.
Wow, that's very topical, considering this is the 100th anniversary.
Yeah, with this being the centennial of the treaty. So this one is fantastic, and it comes, for those not thoroughly conversant with Irish geography, with maps and illustrations. And so,
and it's about Cork. What else could someone want? I meant to bring my Cork.
Or at least you wrote it in Cork.
Jennifer, I meant to bring my Cork teacup, but I forgot. Next month I'll have it.
That's okay. My teacup's still on my desk in the library. What I have at the moment is I'm repping my sister's one of my sister's favorite places in Asheville, North Carolina. They have since changed their logo, but they still exist. And the Cold Mountain is a limited edition that they do every winter. That
cool.
If you don't grab it instantly, it's gone.
Right.
So of course, what she sent me is the glass jacket. She kept the liquid, but that's okay. I've been lucky enough to be back there in the winter and actually get to taste it, and it is quite good. Right. So this wonderful book is 90.
90. Okay.
90.
That's a very cool book. Like I said, it's very topical too.
I can think of a couple of historians of my recent acquaintance that might need to know that that's available.
Yeah. Now, Jennifer, I'm going to have to run off now.
Okay.
Thank you. I want to thank you for all you do at the library, especially what work you've. Oh, you're up to the last one.
Last book.
Ooh, okay. Maybe I'll wait a couple of minutes.
Cute little pamphlet, but it's wonderful. And this is a Dolman Press book in association with the Library of Trinity College, Dublin. It's a selection of pages reproduced with a description and notes by G.O. Sims of the Book of Kells. And
Everyone should
Which-
want a copy of this. Yeah.
exactly. And, you can
Yeah.
tell from the way I'm handling it, this one will tuck tidily in an envelope should you not be local to
Mhm.
pick it up. But it's wonderful. It is in limited availability. This edition is from 1976. It's a reprinting. The first edition was published in 1961. And so,
Oh
of
my
course, I
goodness.
open it to the black and white page.
Right. Okay. That's all right. That's good. All good.
There we go. The Cairo page.
Oh gosh.
I know.
When I went to see the Book of Kells and I walked through Trinity Library, they had to force me to leave. It was like one of the best things I've ever done. I need to get a book of.
Yeah. My husband, when we were there that one day, he's a big guy. He had his hands on my shoulders.
Oh,
He's
to
like,
make you leave?
you will walk through the building. You will not deviate into the stacks. You will touch nothing. Of course, we were
Yeah,
in
I
the
felt
law,
like that too. You have all the people coming behind you. That's the only reason I left. Because they were... Anyway, I do have to go, Jennifer. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
You're welcome,
Um,
Valerie.
for all the hard work you do at the library. I
My
appreciate it.
pleasure. Thanks
And,
for joining me today. It was
I
good
will
to
see you soon, huh?
Sounds good.
Nice to meet you, Mael. Bye-bye.
Yeah, see you, Valerie. Bye-bye.
Bye, Val. So we have now reached the point of the broadcast where I announce upcoming events, and we've got some exciting ones. So, Mael, if you've got a minute or two to humor me, that would be grand.
I do.
Okay. So I've mentioned the Keepers of the Steps exhibition, and I could screen share without blowing this up too. If I don't set them up in advance, it'll never happen. But we have the Keepers of the Steps exhibition, which is 150 years of Irish dance in the Bay Area. That opened last Thursday. It runs this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It runs next Thursday through Sunday, and then it's closing. We are looking into ways to exhibit it again in whole or in part. We are still adding materials. So with the 2025 project coming up and looking at a new space, not only for a new cultural center, we're looking at rebuilding the building. This part of it will be on display in the new building. The library is moving from a 600 square foot space in the northwest corner of the building to an entire floor. And I actually jokingly at opening night of Keepers said, well, if we're going to start collecting and displaying like this, I get 2 floors. And then one of my committee members jumped in and said, do I hear 3? So the 2025 committee knows we are eyeballing all sorts of space in that building for the collections, because the library does have so much ephemera and keepsakes and things that have been donated, as well as the books. So we really could make it quite a destination for Irish culture and research in the Bay Area. That said, February 12th, and this happens the second Saturday of every month, Irish Genealogy Club meets at 11 o'clock Pacific time, still on Zoom. This month, we are partnering and having a speaker from Ireland reaching out. The website is irelandxo.com, and they are historical and genealogy experts or just local people in Ireland willing to help the diaspora with their research when we can't get to Ireland itself. So yes, and Jane Halloran O'Ryan is going to be our speaker, and that is again on Zoom at 11 on the 12th. And the second Saturdays are always big days, because then in the afternoon we have Irish Marvels from 2:30 to 4:30, this time with the discussion of the toolies and the process that goes into making them workable for the Brigit's crosses, and hopefully a little extra discussion about Brigit herself, who we recognize and honor on February 1st. And I saw where there's talk about in Ireland about her and having a bank holiday, and now they want to combine it with St. Patrick. I'm like, no, she can have her own.
It's come through. It's hers.
They did it. Oh, it is
Yeah.
hers. Thank you. We share enough with the men, lovely as they can be. She can have her own day. Patrick gets the whole next month. And then on March 3rd in the evening, the Dowling Library is partnering with the San Jose Public Library on a discussion of the Irish in California and their contributions to the making of the state of California. And with a little luck, we will be joined by a representative from the Sister Cities organization. San Jose's sister city is Dublin, the capital of the Republic of Ireland. And then on March 10th, another in-person exhibition. Artist Annie Holland and her jeweler sister Kathleen are coming. We'd originally planned to bring them in 2020, but then we all got grounded. So she is bringing her photographic exhibition, Children of the Free State, and she traveled around taking pictures and gathering oral histories from people who were born 1919, 1920, 1921, and getting their stories as senior members of their communities now, looking back on what they've seen Ireland become in the last 100 years. So it's going to be really remarkable. These will be all photographic enlargements that will be available. She will have materials available for purchase, as well as some that are being gifted to our collection. And then her sister, Kathleen, does wonderful, not super high-end, but beautiful nature-inspired jewelry designs. And so she will be there with a collection of her works, priced to come comfortably from Ireland to the US. And she will have pieces available for display and for sale. We're looking at an opening night event on March 10th. And then I'm actually talking with both of them tomorrow to settle out how long they can stay, how long we can have the exhibition up. And so more of that will be on our social media and hopefully on the center's newsletters and bulletins as we go forward. And that at 4:45 exactly brings me to the end of our planned program. So if you, Mael, or our Zoom user, who I hope you have enjoyed the program, care to chime in, I see goodies. Now is your moment.
I wanted to tell you about these books. I just got the second one in the mail a couple of days. This is hard to, I'll get a little further back. An Irish author, Geraldine Moorkens Byrne, and she lives in Dublin, bread and buttered. And this was her very first novel, and it's so good. I had a back injury last January, so I spent several days soaking in my friend's tub and reading reading this book, and I loved it. And so I've been
marvelous,
waiting and waiting and waiting for the next one to come out, and it has. So The Body Politic is the first one. And
fantastic.
Do you want me to read you a little bit about it?
That'd be grand. Yes, thank you.
All righty. Geraldine Moorkens Byrne is a poet and writer from Dublin, Ireland. Yakety yak. This is her first detective novel and the first in a series featuring Carolyn Jordan. Her work is centered on Ireland, both past and present. Carolyn has a dead minister of state, a new job to manage a fledgling PR company to save. The last thing she needs are rumors of murder and a strange policeman dogging her steps. And
sounds brilliant.
And Carolyn is in this one as well, the body count. And this has to do with the Bank of Leinster and, you know, scandals and all this sort of thing. But what I love, she has that wonderful sense of humor. So you're reading along and it's all very serious. And then she comes out with some wisecrack. But also just it's so richly Irish. It is just so Irish. It's not just, you can take any old murder mystery, drop it in and give them names like O'Flynn, and it's, you know what I mean? It's just, they're wonderful. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's fantastic. Oh, thank you for that. And by any chance, do you have a copy of your Brigit's devotional to hand that we could show off again?
I do.
Fantastic. Because that was such a wonderful talk with you and Sister Mary Teresa. So I'm happy to promote that book again, especially now that it's available, because when we were talking, it hadn't yet.
That's right. It only came
Released.
out at the end of August. So this is it.
Yeah.
Yay! A Brigid of Ireland devotional, Sun Among Stars. And so it's essays and poetry and resources and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's
But wonderful. And I got drugged about this time last year, kicking and screaming into the world of Facebook, but I happily follow you and a couple of other things. They seem to think that I needed to be one of the admins on the library's Facebook site. I can't imagine why. I'm just the librarian. But I've enjoyed connecting with other content and following the book's progress. So that's brilliant. Thank you. And with that, I think we will say adieu, farewell. And I totally just lost I was stalling trying to remember how to say goodbye in Irish, but it's gone.
Of course, I got good night, but it's a little early for good night. So slán go fóill.
Songafall. Or that works. And Korhamaga for joining us, whether here on this wee Zoom or out in the big wide world of Facebook. And we will see you next. Biscuits and Books is February 17th at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Thank you. Keep well all.